I mean, that
Yeah,
may be their objective.
it's true. It's like that, you tell the truth, and the truth is not necessarily entertaining in the way that we all see entertainment today. Everything seems to have to be entertainment. One of the biggest um, arguments I have today with things that I see, newsreels, horrible stuff out of whether it's Ukraine or Palestine or Israel, horrible footage. They're putting it to music. I don't want my news to music. I don't want like real. I don't want any sound. I just want to be able to witness it. But now that we all got onto these impactful, like every movie advertisement that comes on now has these booms and these booms, and every sentence is the period is like a cannonball dropping on your floor. It's like enough already. And so let me touch on Hypnota again. My impression of how I want to do the show is with no special effects. I want to move towards a show more like The Lion King, not making a comparison to Lion King, but more with puppetry or costuming or set design.
Yeah.
If we're gonna put an alien in the movie in the beginning, which I am, okay, it's a little person or whatever in a suit with like little eyes, whatever it is symbolically that represents. But I don't want lasers. I don't want CGI. I want to get away from that. I think that we need to return to storytelling and
Yeah.
people using their imagination. So that's one of my goals. And that's another buzzkill for people that are trying to make money because they're like, well, how are we going to sell it?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know?
Well, we'll have a conversation with Michael tonight. He's got contacts in Hollywood, and he's more like you. He's an artsy guy, so he's putting it to his vision of doing this documentary, and then he thought maybe a series or whatever. But he has a lot of contacts in Hollywood and stuff like that, so he may be able to help. And anybody that can contact Doug, and let's move this thing along because you've got a lot of stuff that interests me, which is like the finer points, and we can get into these songs. So you have the one Loons, Crooks, and Worse. Explain that one, and then the one that I talked to Michael quite a bit about is this obfuscation. And Michael said to me, "What's obfuscation?" This is what it's all about. And so
Yeah.
talk about the first song, Loons, Crooks, and Worse. And are
Yeah.
you able to play a little segment of that?
I mean, I think I could. I don't know that it would come through unless we can figure out how to share
Yeah,
it.
I think you go ask for a share, and then at the very bottom there'll be a little box you got to click, and it says share audio.
All right. Let me explain the song first, and then we'll see if we can do it.
Yeah,
Okay. Well, Loons, Crooks, and Worse. So as an artist, I'm a sponge, and I absorb everything from all around me. I want to like, anything that comes to me or I see, I'm like, that's material for me to dwell on. And Ron, would repeat often, he's a loon or he's a crook or he's worse. And Ron would talk about loons, crooks, and worse. They're all nuts out there. They're all people that are conning you, and you just don't get it.
yeah,
Now, of course, he knows and I don't know. And so we look like children compared to somebody that's really read into everything.
yeah,
And I don't argue with him. I'm just like, okay, all right, that's good. And I absorb it. I think when Katerina and I first went to the Pandolfis, I haven't talked to Katerina in a while. I'd love to. I think she didn't take it very well. I think that she got offended by the way Ron came at the idea that, oh, you got to be kidding me. You're believing in that garbage, or you're believing in this, or you're believing in that. And I just treaded water. So anyway, I took that term and I said, all right, I'm going to write a song. I'm going to write a song with the lyrics. I'm going to create a song about it, about the agency coming into town in my show Hypnota. And there's a dialogue in the beginning, and Agent Brian says, Agent Randolph, my key guy is Don Randolph is my CIA guy, and he goes, Agent Randolph, we have more activity in an old case. What's that? And he's like, oh, it's the one that happened over here, and blah blah blah, with the Nancy Tremaine and analogy. And he goes, great. He goes, well, looks like more loons, crooks, and worse we got to deal with. And And then he comes out on the stage with the other guy, and then some of the agents bring out band instruments, and they all play the song live, and he sings the song. So it's kind of like it's a tongue-in-cheek comedy, but it's serious.
Yeah.
And it puts the idea across. I could easily read it for you. Let me see if we can do a share.
Yeah.
And I don't want to kind of like kill everybody's let's see. Hold on. Open system preferences.
Share screen. Have you got the green share screen at the bottom there?
Let's see. Logic. Zoom, I think. Let's see.
Zoom, but on the bottom of the screen, there should be a little green share screen.
Yeah, I can see that. I can hit that.
Click on that and it'll give me a request to let you share.
Okay. I don't want to kill our chase our audience away with this. Share sound, optimize video. Let me see. All right, I hit something called. See if you're getting anything.
No.
No, hold on.
Did you click the share screen first? The green
Yeah.
little, yeah.
Yeah.
And it should give me a request for
It says Zoom US may not be able to record the contents of your screen until it is quit. I may have to lose you. I don't want to do it.
No. Okay.
No.
Okay. So then we can maybe give me an audio file and I'll attach it for people.
Yeah. I sent them already, Grant, so you have them.
Okay.
You have 2 songs. I could read a lyric if anybody wants to.
Yeah. Let's do that one, and then we got to do the obfuscation, which is the more important song, I think.
Okay, so here's Loons, Crooks, and Worse. Okay. It goes, and so he walks out on stage and it goes, Loons, crooks, or worse. See me come to town and watch these fakers disperse. Liars that they are, peddling moon dust in a jar to every tinfoil hatted quirk. Loons, crooks, and worse. So very sorry, I don't mean to be so terse, but it brings me total joy to seek and to destroy these lunatics, crooks, and worse. Then it goes into a chorus. It goes, a loon is just a dreamer, delusional, but that's not unusual. A crook is more a schemer, his scams much more diverse. When crooks become much keener with plans to fill their purse, that's when I go from mad to meaner as they go from crooks to worse. Okay. Makes me laugh as I read it. Then third, it's very short. Then loons, crooks, or worse is what I call this circle of circle jerks, liars that they are, channeling wisdom from some far off planet being that they met at the local bar. Loons, crooks, and worse, I'm here to save you from the lies that they disperse. It brings me total joy to seek and to destroy these lunatics, crooks, and even worse.
Yeah. And that's Ron's main deal. And yet you have the thing where he'll say everybody in the field's loon, crooks, and worse. And yet in behind, you and I both know that there may be this portal idea that they're involved with, that maybe everybody's missed the boat, that it's not what people think it is. And so if you're doing an anti-gravity thing, it's got to be a scam, because that's not how it works. That's the way I always interpret it. It's something else. And you can immediately know if you're peddling nuts and bolts that they're just trying to raise money, that's not going to work at all, and is never going to work, because he knows the concept is, he knows where it's going, and that we may not understand too much, but it's not in the direction where everybody's taking it.
I don't think it is, and I think the problem is that from what I've gleaned from some of the things Ron has shared with me, is that, now picture this: these guys are physicists and they're bright people, all right?
Yeah.
So we have what? Government people that they're going to be bringing their ideas and plans to, and trying to sell funding and this and that and everything else. I think it's very easy for a quantum physicist scientist to convince a panel of congressmen that we need to do something and we need the funding for it,
Yeah.
And I think it's the same thing in the field. I mean, we're all like watching these videos, and you get a bright guy come on that talks about, Jack Sarfati and all these different people will come on and talk about something that they know how the tic tac works, and they know the this, and they know the propulsion systems. I can't compete with that because I don't know anything about that stuff. I
Yeah.
can, but this is the kind of thing Ron can, because Ron's a brilliant guy, no matter what anyone thinks about him. He's a brilliant, brilliant guy. And he can see through a lot of things. Now, how much a lot of people would say, hey, oh, come on, Doug, he's kidding you. He's playing you. He's taking you in this direction or taking you in that direction. But I mean, after you around somebody long enough and you kind of get the feeling, you use your intuitions. I'm never without being wary, but I'm not too worried about that.
Yeah. And we do have the one video that I have shared a few times where he's talking and he has no idea this is going to end up on the internet. And he's talking about the fact that going into the other world. Everybody's wondered what it's like to go in the next world. Next time his friend John Sillison goes to the desert, a number of us here will go into the next world and come back again. And
Yeah,
that just sort of like the bottom line is, yeah, there's something. It's like when he said to you, yeah, UFOs are real.
yeah.
But it's the interpretation, and he can't say this guy's wrong. It's this because it's classified material. So he's just saying it's loons, crooks, and worse. And I think, in some ways he may be right that these guys are sort of stabbing at something,
They're
and he
scared.
knows that that's not the way it's going. But there's something to the phenomena. So it gets to the second song that you talk about, which is where I talk to Michael, and we'll talk to Michael about what he can do to help you. But tonight, and that's this obfuscation where he wants to do a movie on these high level government people who have interacted and trying to figure it out and that sort of stuff. And I said, and he figures there's going to be a movie or a interview. And I said, no, it's not going to be an interview. They're not going to tell you the secret. This is the deal. You can't, they're not about to disclose. If they wanted to disclose, they go to New York Times and Washington Post. So he was sort of holding out for that. And he may now sort of realize, and it comes down to this idea where Ron is the guy who obfuscates. So explain what that means.
Yeah, obfuscation to smoke it up and blur the edges and like block its clarity in a sense. Um, this is kind of a humorous song towards the end of the show where the agents are ready to move in on a scenario with Nectar and Jilly and this and that, and Agent Bryant it comes in and Agent Bryant asks Agent Randolph. He says, "Sir," he says, "do you ever have doubts about what we're doing?" And he goes, "How, sir, agent?" I'm trying to talk like an agent. And he goes, "How, sir?" And how so, sir? And he goes, "Well," he goes, "Sir, we have a future too, and we have kids, and we have children. And don't we want to tell the truth to our children? Don't we want this to move forward?" And basically he said, well, basically we are authorized to obfuscate. And then he goes into this song. And the song kind of takes the side a little bit of the agents, which is, I don't know how many people out there, in the entertainment world are going to take the side of the CIA agent, but you'll see what I mean. So it goes like this. He goes, "Yes, I know it angers you, but I've got a job to do. Obfuscation, obfuscation. Think it easy what I do, spreading that which isn't true? Well, even I need a good vacation. You speak the truth, and I say you're wrong. You make your case, and I create scorn. The truth that you tout, I marinate in doubt, sowing seeds of little lies and casting them about." Then there's a great jazz middle section that they would play if we had the music. And then second verse, he goes, "This career that I chose, why? Well, only God could know, is obfuscation, obfuscation. Never wake or toss about, never wrestle with any doubt, for I believe I'm protecting this nation. You want the truth at any price. I say you're wrong, so take my advice. The world's a better place when we control the human race. No need to contemplate. Can we now commiserate? And then his last line, he goes, "Yes, I know it angers you, but I've got a job to do. Obfuscation, obfuscation." And that's how it ends.
That's I think is a critical thing that people got to realize, is that this is going on, that they're telling you, but they don't really care how many stories you tell, as long as you don't have the actual proof. They want people to tell stories. They want the story out there. They want people, the zeitgeist to move up and people to be more conscious of what's going on. But they have their job to do as well, that there are national security implications that people really don't realize, that they really don't have a need to know, same as you'd want to know how the nuclear bomb works or whatever.
Yeah,
It's like,
yeah.
no, I mean, that's, you've got curiosity, which is what we were told. You're just curious. Admit it, you're just curious. Why should we change the rules and regulations to satisfy your curiosity? Now, one of the other songs you talk about is this the rhythm, about the vibration. Can you tell
Yes.
maybe a little bit about that? And that goes to the philosophical implications of the whole UFO phenomena. That it may not be as much a nuts and bolts thing as it is. There's some real important lessons behind what may be going on here.
And that's your character in the show, Grant. You inspired this character, okay? Um, so what happens is Nectar, who's going to try to prove her 5 year earlier UFO um, experience, she starts a radio station in a little trailer with her girlfriend, and they start a radio station. They start to pick up a lot of like interest and people calling in, and then listeners and everything like that. And so she has a guest on, and it's your character that comes on as a guest. And she's like, "Oh, here comes Grant Campbell." That's who I call you, as if nobody could guess that one, right? I say, "Here comes Grant Campbell. Oh, we're gonna have Grant on again. Oh, Grant, what do you got for us this week?" Well, he goes, "We've got some stuff about this. We got some stuff about that, and we're following the portals mystery, which goes out into Mount Shasta and this and that and everything else. But we're also following this story called downloads." And she's like, "Gee, Grant, what's that?" He goes, "Well, downloads are when you receive knowledge from an area, just from some other place, not locally in your brain or anything, but for something else. You download the information." And that's when you sing the song, The Rhythm. And the rhythm speaks of the idea that everything is vibrational. That there is no, I mean, we know now with quantum physics that there's no such thing as any particular thing. When you keep breaking it down, it's vibrational and everything is vibrating. And I've been doing a lot of stuff with solfeggio tones right now recently, changing the pitch of A from 440 to 432 on my piano, and altering different things. And it's all vibrational. And I think everything is moving. Everything in our world now is slowly moving forward to that it's all vibration. And which ultimately means we're all together. We're all one. It's just an illusion of separation, which we've been through.
Now, is there anything else you want to talk? I want to talk a little bit about art and experiencer art. I mentioned to you sort of at the beginning that there's a guy by the name of Chase Williams who has come. He's an AI expert, and he has come up with a program with AI putting together all the UFO material, 7 million pieces of material, and it's all
Yeah.
near-death experience stuff, paranormal stuff, UFO stuff, and stuff like that. And he has a collection of experiencer art, and I think he's got 70 different experiencers, and all this art all around his house from experiencers. So you would be an experiencer. You had a number of sightings, and you've got the one. Describe the one back behind you on the right hand side. That piece of work there,
Yeah.
and maybe we can get. I'm sure. Uh, um,
Chris?
that Chase would love to
Oh,
have that as part of one of those as part of his collection, because that's probably the most famous one that I know of in terms of experiencer art. So explain what that was all about, and how you did it.
I'll tell you what, okay, I'm going to explain one other thing that I had a direct experience of that I painted, and I think I showed it to you a long time ago, where it was this like glowing flower or rose with all these dots going on all over the place. That was a real experience with my friend Charisse. We were in Mexico and in a condo in Playa del Carmen, and around early dusk, beautiful time of the day, we were just laying on the bed, just laying there actually, which is actually remarkable when you see how beautiful she was. And I closed my eyes, and every time I closed my eyes, I said, Charisse, I can't believe what's happening. Something is coming. It's like a movie playing with my eyelids closed. But when I open my eyes, it's not there. She goes, well, tell me what you're seeing. And I could explain it to her. Through 15 to 20 minutes, it got brighter and brighter and stronger and stronger. This glowing, angular, like golden, like almost like a rose, but done in a sort of like in sort of like these sheets of gold. And there were millions upon millions of these breathing dots coming in and out and everything. And it was glowing and glowing. And I'm like, I can't believe what I'm seeing. I opened my eyes. It's not there. I closed them. It's there again. This whole thing was showing inside myself, and it subsided and faded out over a 15 to 20-minute period of time. I painted that, and that's something that I'll certainly offer. I'll offer you for your audience and also for Chase. Okay.
Yeah,
Now,
yeah, I remember that. I remember that
yeah,
story. Did you ever get an interpretation of what that might have been? Because that's a
I
few years ago.
I did. It was many years ago, and I did from a guy that I would have to go into my email and type it into my email and see if my email could find a email from like 2015 or 13 or
Yeah,
something of a particular person that was one of the first people I met in the paranormal world, but he's not somebody I remember.
yeah,
And he made a comment. He told me God had given me a gift. At the time, I don't remember everything he said, but he says that's a gift from God. God had given you a gift that you're like either in sync
yeah.
of with everything. The Lady of Light, which is one of the biggest paintings I made there, which you have a picture of, by the way. I
Yeah,
sent it
yeah,
to you.
yeah. Yeah, and I've
Yeah.
got you gave me a copy, an actual copy of it that I've got in the other room.
So that would facilitate me bringing into the Chris Bledsoe story now. So I was listening to Mel Fabregas on Veritas Radio one day, and I had heard about Chris Bledsoe, and then I saw UFOs over Earth on the History Channel, and they covered Chris on that, and I'm like, holy crow! I mean, like I knew nothing about him, and I'm like, this in Fayetteville, Carolina, and this sounded so
Okay.
realistic and detailed and everything. And I reached out to Mel Fabregas because he had interviewed Chris. And I wrote him an email and I said, Mel, would you possibly tell Chris that he has a person, an artist, that's very interested in his story, and I'd love to speak to him. Well, within no time, Chris called me back. We got to know each other. We became friends. I went to his home. They all treated me very, very well. We talked about the whole thing. We went down to the Cape Fear River. I remember photographing the banks, and I sent you those photographs.
Yes,
I remember
yes.
sending
Thank
it.
you for that. I love that.
Yeah, yeah. And and I had subsequently went back there 3 or 4 different times over the years, over 4 or 5 years maybe. And the last time I went there, I was actually with his dad the night his dad passed away. I was with his dad, and I was ready to head to the airport, and I got along with his dad really well. And on the way to the airport, his father had a heart attack and died, which was amazing.
Wow.
So, and I know you were there too, Grant. So,
Yeah,
but anyway, one of the things that Chris kept impressing upon me, even though my interest was more on maybe the ships and the beings and
yeah.
this and that, he kept saying, Doug, it's all about the lady. I'm telling you, it's all about the lady. Could what the lady brings, what the lady's message is. And I'm like, he said, could you consider painting her? And I'm like, well, Chris, I'm like, I don't know, that's a big job. It's like imaginary. How do you paint someone's vision when you don't see what they see?
Yeah.
I'm like, how am I going to do that? And on and on and on. I'm mainly a studio artist that I paint what I look at. And I thought about it for a while and I said, you know what, I'm going to take it on. And I remember I did, and it was, quite a bit of work. And I know you can't quite see it, but there's a UFO. There's the tree from Chris's
The burning
yard.
tree. Yeah.
Yep. There's a bull running right at you, which is the story of the bull coming through the woods.
Yeah.
And there's a little secret insignias of the Atacama beings or whatever on the bull's head. I got a little hidden messages in there, and then there's a white triangle right on the chest here of her that you can't see because it's just slightly off in color. And that was, the same triangle that he said that little being in the woods had on his chest.
Yeah, I didn't know that. You got I have to take a look. You've got the
Yeah.
triangle on her chest.
Yeah. Zoom in on it and you'll see it on the
Oh,
chest. There's a white triangle, and it's the same kind of,
wow.
it's not like it's like a taller and, triangle. It's the same kind there, and you'll see it. And then
Wow.
look at the bull's forehead. You'll see these
Yeah,
little,
you do that a lot in your art. You put in little
yeah.
clues.
Yeah, it's kind of fun, kind of fun. Someone can discover something or then call me up about it. But yeah, and I did that, and I did the painting. I was a little bit disappointed that when the time came, unfortunately, Chris and I had a little bit of a falling out,
Yeah.
and not anything that Chris did to me or I did to
Yeah.
him.
Yeah.
Totally circumstantial.
Yeah.
He's got like this so-called agent, and I got this so-called agent. We're like, at odds with each other.
Yeah, I think there was a misinterpretation for people. We don't want to tell the story, but there was a misinterpretation of what happened, and he interpreted it one way, and we
Yeah,
interpreted it another way, and they
yeah,
have their right to believe the way they
yeah.
interpreted the story. Yeah,
It was one of these weird things that couldn't really be solved.
yeah,
So it just couldn't be solved. And so we kind of drifted. But when Chris came out with his book recently, I was a little disappointed that he didn't use the painting in
yeah,
the book. And I'm like thinking, well, I put a ton of work into it. I didn't get paid for it. I didn't ask to get paid for it.
yeah,
Maybe someday it will sell as a famous piece of art. I don't know. I really don't care. But
yeah.
I wish, but he did say a woman that you met recently. Did you meet on a podcast,
Yeah,
Julia?
on an X, she was mentioning. Yeah, 2 nights ago, 3 nights ago. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to see her for coffee this Friday. So
Oh, is that right? Yeah, I said she's
she
kind of
lives right.
surprised that we knew each other very well.
She lives right around the corner. She spoke so highly of you, Grant. She's like, "Oh my God, what a knowledgeable man. Oh, it was so much fun to hear him speak and this and that." So she thought the world of you. I had told her about you anyway. But turns out she has a great rooftop, and we're going to make an agreement spring and summer. I'm going to start watching the sky again. So I'm going to go over there and bring my camera.
Wow, yeah, she spoke very highly of you as well. It was kind of one of
Um,
these synchronicity things where it's like, Doug Auld. It's like, oh.
It's funny how it works. But anyway, the painting was done, and I'm fine with Chris, but
Yeah,
I sense there's a distance and there's a mistrust. I mean, even when I first met you, do you remember Powell Harris
yeah,
when I went to Laughlin?
yeah.
She just seemed to be so like distant and like unfriendly to me. And I think I got mixed up with being part of intelligence.
Yeah. Well, I had the same thing. I mean, I had the same thing with the Shasta thing where, and I don't want to get into the story, but there was an event happened in 2020, and Kevin Albert, who was working with Ron, I don't know what the relationship was, but they were very interested in the portals at Mount Shasta. And in 2020, there was a real major event where there was 9 people inside one of these portals, levitated up into the air, hundreds of beings and stuff like that. And I got these people, 3 of them on camera to tell this story. And then suddenly I went back to Kevin Albert, and I was very interested in the thing. Well, okay, isn't it time for you to tell me what CIA, Ron, intelligence knows about portals? He said, yeah, you can do this. Go to Hollywood, get these people in Hollywood. We'll do this thing, and then I'll fill in the other part of the story. And as soon as they heard that, it was like, oh, Grant's bringing CIA to Mount Shasta. So you always get that you're in the same boat as me, is when you know these people. But then what happens is the face to face thing that that when you actually meet people face to face, you go, oh, I heard he was this terrible guy, and it's like, yeah, he's just an ordinary guy, and
Yeah.
that's what you realize. People are just people, and they have their thing, but people get stuck in sort of opinions, and you and I get stuck in the middle of this kind of stuff, which there's nothing we can really do about it because you're coming from a different perspective, and you know them as ordinary people, and all these rumors go around, and that's where Ron's talking about this thing where all this stuff you don't know what to believe because people are making up stuff and just putting it out there, and they're getting lots of clicks and they're getting fear going and stuff like that, and you're never going to get to the truth because there's just so much
Yeah.
garbage on the internet about people and things.
Bottom line, Grant, on my comment with Ron and Leah, they're not at all normal people. And I know what you meant by they're just normal people.
Yeah,
They are not, but they do all the things that everyone else does. Ron mows the lawn, he builds, he does this, he does that. Ron and I put brakes on the front of Aaliyah's car. We work
yeah,
together on it and this and that. I'm not doing that while talking about portals. I'm like just
yeah,
doing that as friends. But uh, he's got a job, and that's why I tried to put that in my songs. And I got to tell you that ever since I know Ron to this day, and even if I may not want to say this, he's never been wrong about anything he's told me. He's never been wrong. If I wait it out, I realized that makes sense now.
yeah,
Whereas I may have believed in somebody 5 years ago, today I don't anymore. I realized that it's like what he said about Grush.
yeah,
And I can't say I never met him, but like they make money. These people make money. There's another big well up of UFO stories. The government is following it, the this and that. It's much more out in the open. And then there's these hearings, and there's always somebody that says, yes, Senator, I'll get back to you on that. Yes, Congressman, I'll get back to you on that. And nobody ever gets back to anybody.
yeah.
And the can just keeps getting kicked down the road more and more and more. And I'm not trying to diss the UFO community at all. We're all in search for the truth.
Yeah.
We're all trying to find out what we're doing here. Why are we here? Where are we going?
Yeah, and your aspect is the musical and the art contributions to the field that's where I think you may have this is your sort of mission, this is your sort of thing to do,
Yeah.
and you do the best you can. It's not like you're going to solve the problem or anything. You put in, your time is valuable, and you do what you think is best to move your objective of whatever you came to the world to do. And so I think you're doing a fantastic job, and your art is just, as I told this girl the other night, I said, this art is like, I keep saying, Doug, quit posting those photographs and saying you painted it. It's like wow. It's like almost like when I look at savants, I go like, how do they do that? It's like, and then you realize that there's another aspect to life there where when you look at these real extreme uh, talents that people have, and you realize people aren't all the same, and people have the ability that you have to do stuff is incredible when you see what people can actually do.
Yeah, well, thank you. My friend L, who you were on the conversation with the NDE,
Oh
my
yeah, yeah.
friend L. Okay, L says to me, you said Savant. L says she thinks I have it. She said, I think you're on the spectrum. I
Yeah.
said, really? She
Yeah.
goes, yeah, there's something about you that tells me you're on the spectrum. So, like whatever, but um and I'm going to be part of a book. I'll tell you about that later on when we talk again. But I'm going to be part of a book that Elle just got me involved in that she would love to have you involved in, and let me share it with you later.
Yeah, okay. And I'm going to get you involved in this movie thing because you were actually recommended where Ron recommended that this guy contact you. So I don't know what it's up to and again, it's up to the guy. Like when they went to Dan said, I'd like to talk on background. I said, well, you talk to the producer. I'm just here to sort of put people together
Yeah.
and stuff like that. So it's up to the documentary guy how he wants to use you or what Ron wants you to do or whatever. But you're going to get dragged into that, and it's like the synchronicity thing. You just sort of get the rational analytical brain out of the way and just say whatever's going to happen is going to happen, and I'll do the best I can. And when the time is right, your production will come out, and the book will come out, and all this kind of stuff, and you'll contribute to the world. And then when it's all said and done, you'll say, "Man, that was an exciting life." It's like you and
Yeah.
I are both sports guys, so we know this sort of thing. It's and the analogy I now use is like the Super Bowl. It's the average ticket is $11,000 for a Super Bowl, and it's the question is if you knew what the score in the Super Bowl was, would you buy the $11,000 ticket? No.
Right, right.
It's the
No.
curiosity is the whole part. It's you're not
Yeah.
supposed to know what's going on. It's
Yeah.
the excitement of the awe and the curiosity that drag you down the road.
Absolutely.
And so to me, it's like you and I mean, to meet you and to meet the people that I've met, it's like you're living in the Super Bowl. You're living in this amazing thing which most people don't even know what's going on. And I feel honored every day that I got to play in this and meet people and stuff like that. People will say, "Well, you got no friends, around here." Well, no, I don't. But around the world, I've got people all over the place, and I can go
Yeah.
anywhere and meet people and have people with all sorts of talents and stuff like that. It's just a wonderful experience. I think you agree. I mean, to be able to interact with the guy that may be briefing the president on the subject, and
Yeah.
to be in movies and books and spread your stuff around the world. And you've got a lot of stuff. Maybe I didn't read in your bio, but you've been in all your paintings. To talk about some of your paintings, that some of the things that you've had posted and at the
Well,
Smithsonian and stuff like that, because you're
yeah, I
you're
mean,
not just an ordinary artist. You've won
no.
some stuff.
And I've always had you know, the Twilight Zone, Rod Serling's Twilight Zone made a very big impression on me in my life since a kid on up. In fact, I give it credit for giving me a social education responsibility. A lot of my heart and my intuition about how to be with people and treat people came through the Twilight Zone. The Twilight Zone would highlight people down on their luck, bums, drunks, these kinds of situations. And so as I'm gaining the skill to paint, after 9/11 happened, when I witnessed the buildings fall, I was right on the water's edge when the buildings fell in Hoboken, New Jersey.
Yeah.
And my friend Kevin Cleary was lost in the Trade Center among a lot of other people. I came home and I stared at my ceiling. I was on my rollerblades and I stared at my ceiling fan when that happened. And I said, "What are you doing with your life, Doug? What are you doing diddling around with crummy subject matter and painting and get real?" And when I made this promise to take on something impactful, a vision of a little girl that I saw many years ago who was severely burned came into my head, right like that. We get flashes, Grant. We all get flashes. And what we do is we push those flashes out. It's like, well, that doesn't make any sense. I don't want that one, you know?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that's the flash that I got. And I meditated on it and I pitched St. Barnabas Burn Center on the idea that I want to paint burn survivors. And they were like, really? I mean, what for? And in a sense. And the I sent them all the pictures of my realist paintings and to make them realize that I'm not just like a paint by number person or something,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And they were so taken. And she had me come in, the woman had me come in, and I pitched her on the idea of painting 10 volunteers in their burn community because they had that was a burn hospital.
Yeah.
And I want 10 volunteers and I want to try to express to the world the fact that this is just your exterior, that you could have been perfectly beautiful yesterday and today you're completely burnt and melted. And the same person that was there is now here, but the world wants nothing to do with them anymore.
Yeah.
Nothing to do with them. You can't work, you can't get a job, you can't be a bank teller, you can't be at a cosmetic station. You can't. No, and they all became shut-ins. I was like amazed at what I learned about the burn community. So I painted 10 burn survivors, and my painting Shayla, which was a 14-year-old burn survivor, I managed to get into the National Portrait Gallery, at the Smithsonian, as winning part of a portrait competition. And I got in there and they told me it was the first time that any artist had ever hung a burn survivor portrait at the Smithsonian. And Shayla got invited with her mother to the gallery. and all the curators and everybody of that museum applauded her, got around her, and her tears,
Yeah. Wow.
it touches me now when I talk about it.
Yeah.
That now I could never have known when I started that series that anything like that would have happened. There's
Yeah.
no way. And I'm at that same crossroads now with Hypnota. I don't know how it's going to get there,
Yeah.
but I ask
Yeah.
your audience, to anybody you know, any friends, just open your mouth, and you never know how the dots are going to get connected.
Yeah. Beautiful. And you have some of the burn victims on the right side there.
Yeah, let me see if I can move this a little bit.
Yeah. And that New York Times picked that up as well, right?
Yeah, the New York Times did an article on me. They're big paintings. You can see them.
Yeah.
Shayla's behind the chair there. Um, but
Yeah.
yeah, but they're on my website, DougAuld.com. And so,
Wow.
you'll see them there.
And how many
And
paintings would you have in total? Because I keep getting surprised. I see more and more stuff. It's like I wonder, like, how many paintings does this guy actually do over your lifetime?
well, I mean, I have done so many pieces of art and given so many pieces away and lost art and don't even know where they went. I tell people I'm a fairly good artist who ran a horrible art career. I am just not good at writing it down the size and where it is and documenting it and
Yeah, yeah,
cataloging it and this went to here and that. I'm terrible at it. The second I'm done with anything creative, I want to start another project. And
yeah,
that's one of my downfalls, because then I never get to the business of it.
yeah.
So, but I've been on national television. I was put on TV in Germany in Dusseldorf, in Cologne and Dusseldorf. They put me on German television because I painted this woman, Maha Schaff, who came home one day, and her father, who was an alcoholic, hit her with a can of gasoline and lit her on fire.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And I painted her portrait all kind of
yeah.
melted, and they celebrated it. And she joined me in photography there in the gallery. And oddly enough, it's how I met one of my real loves in my life, Sarah, who who I'm kind of in my own secret relationship with still. But she was my interpreter, and she helped me with she speaks 5 languages, bright girl, and just a
Wow.
sweetheart. So, but yeah, I mean, I was on Entertainment Tonight and MTV's Traveling Museum Show. I've been in articles and so, but I left the painting, and my mission now is this musical.
Yeah. Well, we're going to do what we can to get it out. I encourage people to contact Doug and let's move this down the road, because it's an important project that he's been working on for so many years. And it does have a backstory to it and a lot of hidden meanings if you understand the songs and where he was going for. So hopefully you can do that. One thing maybe the last question, at one point you were going to do, I don't know if you ever did, you were going to do a live painting thing on the internet where you were going to paint something. Did you ever do that? Because I think that would be amazing, where you actually, people can say a real, like a guy who knows what he's doing, this is how you do a painting, and then just
Oh.
watch you do get Ron Pandolfi to sit there and pose for you. And did you ever do that? You were going to
I
do that at
told
one
Ron, if you're going to be blowing the whistle on my whistleblowers,
point.
I'm going to have to paint you as the whistleblower who's blowing the whistle on the whistleblowers. And so, but I never did it. I still have it in my mind. I'd love to see Hypnota start to
Yeah,
get traction, but I think that's a place I'm going to end up eventually, is that I would probably do an online thing and show people how I start a painting, how I
yeah,
start it, how I get it going, and help people kind of oh, that's how it's done. It's not done, by drawing the eyes and then the
yeah,
nose. It's
yeah,
not done like that.
yeah. And I think that's what Aaliyah was. You were teaching Aaliyah
I
how
was
to do that.
helping Lilia, yeah.
Yeah. And I've seen some of her paintings. They're not bad. I mean,
She's good, and she's a good musician too. Aaliyah's very, very talented, but her great accomplishment is Kashmir, because she's raising Kashmir in such an amazing way. I just saw them in the city. They just came to New York, and they invited me. Kashmir had an event at a UN sponsored kind of thing that had to do with young women in AI.
Yeah.
And she addressed a whole group of adults, and she's 12. I mean, it's
That's
come
amazing.
on.
And she's homeschooled, right?
Yeah, homeschooled and
Yeah. Yeah. She's
it's
going to end
so,
up, it'll be interesting to see what she ends up doing.
yeah,
Because they're spending a lot of time on her, and she's pretty talented. I guess she's got Ron's smarts, and plus a lot of help from both parents in terms of
yeah.
making her something. So it'll be interesting to see where she goes.
I help her with ice skating. I go there. I've helped her with every topic you can think of that revolves around art or music or writing. And I've drawn in front of her. I showed her how I do things and this and that. Then we go to the rink and we skate, we ice skate and stuff like that. So it's fun. Kashmir is great. I love her.
Yeah. Wow. Well, thanks for doing this, and we're going to see you in a couple of hours with Michael, and he'll be able to add to your project and with contacts, and you can see what he's doing, and maybe you can contribute something to his effort to move the ball down the field.
My son Brian always impresses on me. He goes, Dad, why be so rigid about it having to be a show on Broadway? Why not do a Netflix thing or a this or a that? And
Yeah,
I'm like, I said, Brian, I'm open to it, but that's how the message is delivered to me, that there's something very unique about the stage. And who does this on the stage? We got a lot of great filmmakers, but we have nobody that's bringing a disclosure topic to the stage. So that's my hope.
how many Broadway productions are there going at a time? That you have Broadway and then you're off Broadway. Explain that to
Yeah.
me.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's smaller theaters and smaller things that are not in the Broadway area, and then there are the big theaters, and the big theaters that carry the big shows, Les Miserables and all this kind of stuff,
Yeah,
Lion King and everything. Man, I can't imagine the amount of money you need to get a show up and then to keep it running. It's like 20 million bucks or whatever, and you got to get it up and you got to rehearse it and you got choreography, you got lighting, you've got so many things. I'm certainly not doing this for the money. The money,
yeah.
maybe the guys who wrote Hamilton are making money, but Grant, how much money do you make from books? People
Yeah,
know that.
exactly. People would be
Everybody
surprised.
thinks, oh, he wrote a book. He's only doing it for the money. Really?
Yeah,
How much money
yeah,
are you making?
yeah, yeah. And which leads to the question: were you able to survive doing art your whole life?
No, no. I mean, I was fortunate for a number of things that happened in my life. I had good skills and I made money through mechanics and auto, auto, auto repair, but I'm mainly in the piano business.
Yeah,
And the piano business is what really liberated me to become an artist because if I worked for my father, I would have had to work from 9 in the morning to
yeah,
9 at night as a car salesman.
yeah,
Like, where's the time for freedom?
yeah,
So I started tuning and rebuilding pianos and making really good money as a young guy, and I was able to get home at 1 o'clock in the afternoon.
yeah.
And that's when my brother and I would work on our music, or we went to the Dali Museum and I learned how to paint. I took up painting. I had time to pursue creativity. And then eventually, when my mom and dad passed, at the stage that I'm in now, I was fortunate to be left finances, my brother and I and my two sisters. And I live in a studio apartment. I have a tiny little Mini Cooper car from England, and
Wow.
I live under the radar.
There you go. It's been a good life, and it's been an honor to know you in terms of
Uh,
the stories we shared, and we've had some synchronicities and meeting people and stuff like that, and it's all worked out well. I mean, people may not understand right now what you've done or what I've done, but eventually people will be able to put all the pieces together when it all finally unravels as to what actually happened, and that you and I got to live in this time, and I'm honored to have played the part and played it with you. So I mean, because we were some of the first people to know Chris Bledsoe. I mean,
yeah,
now it's a big deal, but you and I were there when it first started, and
yeah,
when he was struggling to tell his story, and we've been there and we've had experiences, and
yeah,
you've had the healing experience with him and stuff like
yeah.
that, and those kind of things you can't just sweep under the carpet. That's amazing stuff that most people will never experience in their life, and you and I have had numerous experiences like that in our lifetime.
We also were blessed with being Canadians hockey fans, right? Me, the Montreal Canadiens of all things. I'm a New Yorker, but I'm a Montreal Canadiens fan, and you, the Winnipeg Jets.
Winnipeg Jets, yeah. So we understand that competition aspect of the thing,
Yeah.
that life's a game, and don't take it too seriously. And because your team and my team, well, your team is a little more successful than mine, but when you're a Winnipeg Jet fan, you don't really get too high about yourself, because it's usually going to end up crashing and burning.
Well, you know what? The laughter is the takeaway for everything. If it's anything NDE people have helped me with, is you just don't get it. You're taking this thing too seriously. You are. I mean, it's so real when you're here, and it's a very, very good analogy to the stage. When you're watching a play from an audience on a stage, and there's like horrible scenes and terrible deaths and like sadness and crying, and the actors are so good, you're buying into that story.
Yeah, yeah,
But it's a show.
yeah.
It's a show, and we're in an audience. And when that curtain comes down, they all high five each other, and everybody's done a great job. Then next time they're in a show, they're going to play different parts.
Yeah, and that's a lesson I always try to put out when I'm talking, is remember who you actually are. You are not the character on the stage. You are playing a character on the stage. It's this
Yes.
analogy of life. It's the
Yes.
idea where, in the end, everybody just goes off and plays another play, and people get entertained and you learn stuff from it, but don't take it so seriously. It's just a play, and that's what I think. Hopefully, you can join me, because I get a lot of, as I think I sent you the one email. I get a lot of people who want to do near death experience interviews, and I figure, well, I'll bring Doug in, because I don't really like interviewing. But if you're with me, well, then we can do some near death experience people, because that's your fascination, and it's also mine in terms of how important this is. And I
Yeah.
do get a lot of people contacting me about, they'd like to tell their near death experience story. I think I've given you one coming up shortly, where this person definitely wants to tell their story, and I think that's where we go. Is we let them have their little show on stage, and people will learn from it. But the show analogy is extremely important. This idea that all the world's stage, all the men and women are but actors. They have their entrances and exits, and each man plays many roles. And hopefully, we can get it going, and we can have a UFO stage play, because there's never been one, right? There's never been anything.
Not that I know of. I just got a notice somewhere that some theater in England, if I'm not mistaken, I just saw this. It's some theater in England is going to do a play. Now that's not a musical, it's a
Yeah.
play on the town's UFO experience.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And they're going to get the actors from the town, and they're going to write it, and they're going to do it, and it's going to be in that town. And
Okay.
I'll try to come up with what that is, but that's like in the workings. But this is what I'm trying to say. My show is waiting to happen. It's like on time, if not
Yeah.
still ahead of its time. And I really feel it's due. And I really, really feel and I tell you again, and I tell everybody, I don't know how I even did it, because when I first started writing it, it came out of me like water. I mean, 30,
Yeah.
30 or 40 pages, like it flowed like, and I'm not that good at, that kind of thing. I'm not schooled for writing.
Yeah.
I never did a show. So I'm 10 years on it, and it's
Yeah.
ready to go.
Well, when the time is right, that's like the Bashar the Chandler says, you live life to your highest excitement with no expectation of the result, and it'll
Yeah.
happen. We sometimes get the ego wants to, win right now, and I think that when the time is right, it's all done, and it's just a matter of finding the right person, and it'll all move along. So, thank you for doing it, even if if we get only to this stage. You did go through it, and you produced stuff that I'm aware of, and a lot of people are also aware of. And it's just when the time is right, I think it'll happen. So let's see where we go. We'll put this out, and we'll talk to Michael, and we'll we'll move on to the next stage, and stay excited.
Sounds great, Grant, and I thank you for your time, and it's always good to see you. And let's see what happens. It's all a mystery, but if my show is divinely given to me, it's going to be divinely unveiled.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. I wouldn't be there for no reason. It's maybe it's just not the right time right now, where because a lot you even see the UFO stuff. You think, oh, it's about to be disclosed, and then say, oh no, it's the same thing. That's the thing. Eventually, it will come, and that may be what the phenomena is doing. is it's not giving you everything at once. It's slowly moving up, and you don't realize that the consciousness is rising. The what people understand is rising. And it's like when if you say, well, when did, say, gay marriage was it approved? And you go, I don't know, what, 10, 20 years? It just sort of happens. You don't really realize that
Yeah.
things happen in the world, and they don't really have an end point or a beginning point. They just sort of change, and then suddenly you realize it's not the same world. Even my world of UFOs in 1975, and I keep telling people, there's not even nothing that was the same in 1975. Nothing. There's no crop circles. There was no light language. There was no really abduction experiences. There was nothing. It was just UFO sightings, and you only saw one. And if you saw two, you were totally crazy. Nobody ever listened to you. It's a totally different world, and that's what I think is happening here as well. That you do what you can. That's all you can do. Live to your highest excitement with no expectation of a result, and the synchronicities will start to, as long as you stay in that excited state, the synchronicities will come, and they will move you towards the end result.
Great, Grant. That's
Beautiful.
well said. I agree.
Thank you again for your time, and I'll help get Desta to help me post this thing, and we'll try to put some songs, and we'll go from there. And I'll see you again later on in the day, and we'll talk about another project that maybe you can be involved in.
Sounds great, Grant. I'll talk to you later on.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right. Bye.
Bye-bye.